Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Prime Time Newscast in the English language on Canal, the International. I'm called Morinzi at Top Stories. Evicted from ancestral land Sawa of the Canton Berlin Aqua Douala were on the streets after they have been deprived of the land occupied before the arrival of a European colonialists. Our continental stakeholders are worried about the plight of young Africans and how they can break through on their innovative entrepreneurial skills. Providing seed capital is a major issue for business to take off. And solace to victims of the conflicts in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon and to internally displaced persons, and some 100 tons of rice has been handed over to the governors of the Northwest and Southwest regions by the Minister of Territorial Administration. That was today. And 7 candidates are said to have deposited their candidature for the Fecafoot upcoming elections with the deadline yesterday, November 18. No other files shall be received by a Fecafoot Electoral Commission. Those were major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. Our sons and daughters have promised to fight to the last drop of their blood to protect what they describe as their ancestral land. They were on the street this morning to protest against a forceful eviction, but were quickly dispersed by the police, as we hear more in the following story.
The atmosphere was emotionally charged as the sons and daughters of the Bel Canton in Douala, Cameroon's economic city, engaged a Pacific march this November 19, 2021 to protest against the planned destruction of their houses by an individual. The man, simply identified as Chaco, is allegedly planning to construct a hotel in the portion of land, an act which the indigents are against.
Since October 28, our houses were marked for destruction. Families have lived here for about 3 centuries and have land titles. With plans to build a hotel, our land is chosen. How can indigents be evicted from their own land with all the edifices found on them? The police is expected to protect us while we manifest. On the contrary, it is the same police that is dispersing us with tear gas canisters. It is not normal.
We are claiming our land, so can't indigents live in their area? The prince is my grandson. We are lost. How can a woman of 81 years be poured tear gas? It's not normal. We are organizing a Pacific march on the pavement, not on the road, but they wouldn't let us. We are calling on the head of state to step in and resolve this problem, because we are in distress.
They were dispersed by defense forces who poured tear gas and water cannon. Some of them sustained injuries.
We are the indigents here. They want to evict us from this land, despite the fact that we own a land title for so many decades now. The reason for this eviction is not founded at all. It is not about building a hotel. We from the Canton Bell, we love peace and living together, but this is a very big surprise to us this morning to find the defense and security forces here brutalizing us and dispersing us with tear gas canisters. Don't we have the right to defend our land with titles?
Shops and other businesses remained closed for a greater part of the morning as defense forces were on patrol in the area. The aggrieved Sawa sons and daughters are bent on fighting for justice to prevail.
And continental stakeholders are worried about the plight of young Africans, and how they can break through in their innovative entrepreneurial skills. Providing seed capital is a major issue for business to flank off. However, if young businesses should grow, it needs more than a project. Kejang Henry Atembe completes that story.
Africa is experiencing faster economic and population growth than any other continent owing to its increased economic opportunities and ability to expand techniques. However, the continent's strength in young graduates failing to return home poses a serious problem of brain gain.
Major issue today, an issue that is cuts across every country in Africa, and I think that entrepreneurship, when you look at it in depth, it's the way forward, because standard employment like we used to know it before, leaving university or higher institutions of learning and getting a job, for the most in the civil service or say the private sector, is becoming more and more difficult. So entrepreneurship, of course, is the way to go.
Conscious of these, joint initiatives between development stakeholders under the auspices of Boost Africa is harnessing youth potential by stimulating entrepreneurship and innovation across the continent.
One of the biggest initiatives to support entrepreneurship on the continent is run by Tony Elumelu, who is a well-known Nigerian entrepreneur, through his foundation, the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. And it's a program that he started in 2015 that said, okay, he realized the need that you just rightly desired in your question. And that need is to raise as many entrepreneurs as possible, African entrepreneurs that would help rebuild the economy.
With more than 60 global partners supporting youth initiative and innovations, Africa might catch up with the rapid trend of Asian tigers if the youths are well harnessed. And for this to happen, the youths need serious mentoring.
That is why mentoring is one of the tools that can help people to improve their business and, of course, improve the economy of Africa.
According to experts, great economies were built by young entrepreneurs and not by civil servants.
So victims of the conflicts in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon and to internally displaced persons, as some 100 tons of rice has been handed over to the two governors of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon by the Minister of Territorial Administration. Kejan Henry Atembe completes that story.
Close to 3,000 bags of rice have been handed to feed vulnerable persons in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon buried in socio-political conflict for the past 5 years. This is a gift from Vietel, a telecommunication outfit that handed the consignment of grains to the Ministry of Territorial Administration. The consignments were handed to the victims on November 19, 2021 in Douala.
Instructions from the head of state, President Paul Biya, we have come today to officially commission, to officially receive this grant, which is a consignment of 100 tons of rice given to the government by Vietel International Group, represented by his director here. We sincerely want to thank the Vietel Group for this wonderful gesture. We have 100 tons of rice which will go to the northwest and southwest regions to help populations victims of the socio-political upheavals in the two regions.
Touched by this gesture, Southwest Regional Governor Bernard Okalabilai hopes to channel the foodstuff to the targeted vulnerable persons.
Well, on behalf of the population, we want to express our gratitude to the Vietel company and to the government, the head of state, who gave his high accord for those donations to be received by the Minister of Territorial Administration.
To the governor of the Northwest region, Adolphe Lily Lafrique, the arrival of this foodstuff at the end of the year is a blessing to the population as it opens the doors for feasting.
IDPs of the Northwest region coming to add to what the government has also already done so far, to what the other partners are doing on a daily basis to help those populations. We are now following the instruction of the minister, to make sure the gift is distributed to the targeted population.
The Minister of Territorial Administration, used the opportunity to announce his drive to carry out such humanitarian operations in favor of internally displaced persons to other regions of the country.
The national campaign to deworm school-going children against intestinal worms flanks of November 30 across Cameroon in the nation's economic capital, Douala. Health officials are multiplying a strategy for effective campaign around the deworming exercise. As we hear the following story.
5 million children in Cameroon risk being infected by schistosomiasis, while more than 10 million Cameroonians suffer from intestinal worms, with school-going children the most affected and the most vulnerable group.
Children, especially children from 5 years to 14 years old, are more vulnerable because they're the ones who have the more at-risk behavior, like eating without washing hands, or for bilharziasis is playing inside infected waters, rivers in the villages.
According to medics, the absence of deworming in children causes severe imbalance in their system.
If a child is not dewormed, the consequence of intestinal worm, you can have impaired growth. You can have also anemia, chronic anemia. You have denutrition. The child is more exposed to have other infections also, and you have a low concentration at school and low school results.
Talking of statistics, between 2006 and 2019, a lot has evolved in terms of the deworming of children between the ages of 5 to 14 in Cameroon. Medics intend to reinforce communication around the exercise, which kicks off across the national territory as of November 30 and will last for a week.
So the deworming campaign is to fight against intestinal worms or soil-transmitted ehrlichiosis, as we can say, and also schistosomiasis or bilharziasis.
The press briefing in Douala, November 19, was to enable pressmen know more about intestinal worms and schistosomiasis and reinforce communication around the campaign. Parents have been encouraged to embrace the campaign, which will relieve their children from other abnormalities.
And stakeholders in the health sector in the South region have expressed a commitment to continue the fight against premature birth in that part of the country during a session to educate the population on the causes and prevention of prematurity. Health officials announced the acquisition of more incubators to protect premature babies. Gladys Ambodibang has the rest of that story.
Statistics indicate that out of every 1 million births in Cameroon each year, 100,000 are premature. In a bid to reduce the rate in Cliquez, in the south region of Cameroon, officials of the district hospital deemed it necessary to school the population on the causes and ways through which they could be prevented.
The recommendation of the Minister of Public Health is to reduce the neonatal mortality, and in Cameroon, prematurity is the second cause of neonatal mortality after birth asphyxia. So for us, it was an evidence to celebrate this journey and to present those parents of premature babies to the community, to the society.
The hospital recently acquired incubators as part of efforts to reduce complications of prematurity and neonatal mortality rates. This was thanks to some health stakeholders.
Philip is from Switzerland, and he came in my service about 2 years ago, saw the cares provided to children, and was so amazed and shocked by this. He decided to help us to acquire some equipment, and by these ways we acquired 2 incubators and 2 oxygen contractors. So they are in the service, they are working for the benefit of everybody. So we just need to inform that all the procedures were followed for the acquisition of these incubators.
During the 7th edition of World Prematurity Day, health experts and stakeholders expressed their commitments to jointly fight against premature birth in the Ocean Division.
And stakeholders in the economic drive towards post-COVID recovery see the Central African sub-region should rely on its natural resources to get off the pangs of economic recession that met in Douala for 2 days. As we end the following story with Kajan Henry Atembe.
African economies are seriously battling with the excruciating and devastating effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The post-COVID recovery drive is hinged on the role nature can play in the recovery plan rolled out by the economies of the Central African state.
Without referring to nature, you won't be able to really build a resilient economy, particularly after this pandemic. You know, many hypotheses are stating that maybe this pandemic is what we call a zoonose. Meanwhile, something coming from a relation which is not normal, a contact coming from animal to human being.
Meeting in Douala under the auspices of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, stakeholders in the development process will have to identify key policy directions to enhance the resilience of the region's people and the ecological systems on which they depend.
We are talking about recovery, post-COVID-19 recovery. We are using the term also green, meaning what? That as you have heard, most of the country has actually developed a green recovery plan, the country green. So putting actually the emphasis and the priority on investing on certain areas which are necessary for the socio-economic development of Africa.
From November 18 to 20, nature will be the focus of development and growth. Worldwide Fund is thus calling for the sustainable management of natural resources for the overall well-being of the citizens who depend on such resources to survive in this post-COVID recovery era.
And some 7 candidates are said to have deposited their candidature for the Fecafoot upcoming elections with the deadline billed yesterday, Wednesday, November 18. No other files shall be received by the Fecafoot Electoral Commission. But who are these? Those that have finally made their intentions known as candidates for the post of presidency of Fecafoot. More with our reporter, Hyson Cha.
Deadline for the deposition of candidature for aspiring candidates into the presidency of the Cameroon Football Federation has come and gone. While waiting for the official publication of the list on or before the 25th of November 2021, 7 days after the deadline by the Fecafoot Electoral Commission as stipulated by the electoral laws. So far, 7 candidates are said to have filed in their documents for the football top position. Former captain of the Indomitable Lions, Samuel Etofis, first to drop his file at Fecafoot, ushered in by a huge crowd of fans. 2 other big names of former Lions, Emmanuel Mabuang Kesak and Jules Denis Onana, who were part of the 1990 squad that took Cameroon to the quarterfinals of the World Cup, are equally candidates. And also eyeing the Fecafoot top seat are candidates like Jean-Crispin Nyamsi, Zachary Wanja, Justin Tagu, and Manuel Boyomo, who successfully deposited their candidatures within the November 18 deadline. As to whether or not the interim Fecafoot president, Sedum Bombo Njoya, has filed in his candidature for the December 11 elections, question to be answered by the Gilbert Chic Commission upon publication of the final list.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Newscast on Canal de International. We have news in the French language at exactly this level 5 with Trésor Tanon, and we have the brief coming up with Abuba and Gomna. So we'll be back same time, but this time around on Monday. Good night.